It has been one hot topic and very controversial, and it all centers around the question, can you bring hemp through the state of Idaho? It's been debated for years now, and now a new USDA rule is set to clarify this.
The rules announced in a draft published today allows for the interstate transport of hemp. So what does that mean, and what does that specifically mean for Idahoans? Joe Paris is in studio to explain what Idahoans need to know. Joe.
Tammy, first, the new rules from the USDA does not mean that you can grow hemp in Idaho, so don't do that. Idaho remains one of 3 states, along with South Dakota and Mississippi, that does not allow hemp to be grown under their state law. Now, what this rule does do, it allows for hemp to be transported through Idaho. And this is something, though, that some argue has already been legal for a while.
Hemp can travel throughout the country, according to the United States Department of Agriculture.
For people across Idaho, this is the big takeaway from a draft of new rules on hemp that was put out by the U.S. Department of Agriculture. For Idahoans, though, growing hemp is still against the state law. But for now, hemp can be transported through the gem state without penalty.
It was certainly what was expected, again, from the language that's written on the page of the statute. And so it was, again, just validating to see that the USDA agreed with Big Sky all along.
This is Elijah Watkins, partner at the Boise law firm Stoll Reeves. He currently represents a Colorado company that had its hemp seized by the Idaho State Police while it was being moved through Ada County. Watkins argued from the very beginning that interstate commerce of hemp is legal after a federal bill was passed just last year.
Congress said what it meant in the 2018 Farm Bill, and that is that states cannot interfere with the interstate commerce of hemp. USDA reaffirmed that in May of 2019 when its general counsel said as much, and now USDA with these most recent regs reaffirmed once again that a state cannot interfere with the interstate commerce of hemp.
Congress passes a bill and says the agency will promulgate rules, and that's what's taken place, and now we've got to adapt to it, and which we're working through the steps of that right now.
Idaho Governor Brad Little says that the state is keeping a close eye on these new federal rules, but that there are still a lot of questions to be answered on the hemp front.
What do we do with transportation? What do we do with state police? What do we do with agriculture? You know, there's some issues with hemp and how it cross-pollinates with other. Those are all things we've got to address. I'm all for hemp. I just don't want hemp to be a camouflage for recreational marijuana. But the legislatures, I'm sure they're going to address it early on in the session.
So hopefully the legislature can get together, they can get around a table, the governor can sign off on it, and we can start doing what the other 47 states in the country have already figured out.
And if they legalize hemp in the legislature, are you able to sign a bill on that?
Well, as long as it doesn't serve as camouflage for recreational marijuana. I mean, that's been my point all along.
Stemming from that legal battle we just mentioned, the Idaho State Police still have the 7,000 pounds almost of hemp, worth $1.3 million, by the way, that they seized from that Colorado company, Big Sky Scientific. For now, the fate of that hemp is still in limbo. This case remains in litigation. Now, I reached out to the Idaho Farm Bureau for their impressions on the rule. And again, for now, you can't grow hemp in the state of Idaho. But here's what the Farm Bureau has to say. They said that they're pleased to see the USDA follow through on the rules and that they look forward to the legislature removing the final obstacles in the state law during the 2020 legislative session. They say that way Idaho farmers can have the same opportunity to produce hemp as farmers in other states do. And when you talk about enforcement, like the state police does, I reached out to them to ask about what their enforcement is going to look like. In the meantime, they say for now it's wait and see. They say the rule is not officially implemented yet, so they're waiting to see what the actual language of the final rule looks like before making a decision there. Mark?